Hello, this is Latoya Bollinger, and this is the final part to the first chapter. I am not sure of how many chapters I'm going to be making, but I'm pretty sure this is the third part. So, hope you guys enjoyed this one part. The funeral was long, and you could almost see them pulling the plug, for all the tears had drowned the church. Soon, though, everyone was home and ready to rest. Well, everyone but Jenny. She sat on the balcony at her house. She felt the cold air blow through her hair sweetly. She could still hear her mother's voice. Jenny, be careful out there. Don't fall. She smiled at the memory. She looked at the ground and then quickly jerked back up as the height of the building scared her slightly. She felt a warm hand on her shoulder as she turned to view her father. Hey, Jen, what's wrong? He asked, looking at her. She smiled calmly as he sat down in a nearby chair. Neither could I. This day's been so long. We should at least try, he said, standing again. His baggy pants and short-sleeved shirt ripped in the wind. Jenny shook her head. Go ahead. I think I'm going to write some more advice, she said as she remembered she may be sad, but she's still an advice column. She started work almost instantly when her mother died. They changed the column to Ask Jenny. She has all your answers. She was actually sad about taking over her mother's position, but her father said her mother would be proud. Jenny closed her eyes as Coop kissed her softly on the forehead and began to walk away. Good night, she whispered as he giggled. Good night, he whispered back as he left her to the cold, dark wind and shadowy night. She then thought the cemetery. Coop and Phoebe had always told her to never go there. She remembered the thought exactly. Her flashback became a view now. Jenny was standing in front of the couch, as she had already told her mother she was going to the cemetery to the mausoleum. Phoebe darted after her and even called for backups. Just wait till your father gets here, Phoebe shouted as Coop hurried in. What's wrong? He asked as Phoebe had an angry glare on her face, and Jenny was full of anger as well. What's going on? Your daughter wants to go down to the mausoleum, she said as Coop's eyes grew with fury. You are forbidden to go down there till you are out of your teens, he shouted as at her. Jenny was standing at the door now. She had the door open and was ready to leave, till she heard her father, the man that was always the easy one, yell at her. She slammed the door. I hate you guys, she yelled as she pushed past them and ran to her room. The flashback ended and Jenny had tears in her eyes. How could I say that to them? They loved me so much, and I just acted like I didn't even care. Her tears began to stream as she thought more and more about all the times she said that to her mother. Jenny stood up and wiped the tears from her eyes and stained cheeks. She turned and went inside. Jenny closed the doors leading to the balcony and turned swiftly. She was still dressed in her black dress, so she just took off her heels and put on some soft tennis shoes. She then grabbed her mother's old blue jacket. She then closed her eyes and hurried to the mausoleum. She looked around to the place cobwebbed room, and dirt was everywhere. She walked over to a big coffin made of stone. She sat against it until she heard a clatter coming from a large fence on the opposite side of the room. She jumped to the sound of it, but remained calm. Who's there? She asked as she seen an older man's hand grab one side of the gate. He pulled himself up, but she did not know his face, but something seemed clearly familiar. She looked at him as he stood up. His face was pure handsome, and his skin a light tan. His hair as black as coal. She gave him an odd look. Who are you? She asked more demandingly. He looked at her and smiled. Jenny, I have been looking for you, he said. Her eyes grew wide as he walked towards her. She ran around to the other side of the coffin. Who the heck are you? She demanded as he walked over to the coffin. Just as feisty as your mother, I see. He looked at her. Oh, how great she was. She almost gave up on love. Thank God for Coop, he said as Jenny darted him another wide-eyed, scared look. Oh, your mother must not have told you about me, he said as Jenny looked at him. Obviously, she said as he walked around the coffin. She began to back up until she reached the wall. He was only feet away from her, and she had no way out. I'm Cole Turner. I was your mother's ex-husband before Coop. We loved each other so much, he said as he now had his chest against hers. She was only a few feet shorter than him, so they looked straight at each other. I came to tell you something, he said, placing a hand softly on her cheek. What might that be? She asked as She thought it back to her mother telling her she had a husband before Coop, but she never told her more than that. I love you, he said. He rubbed her cheek. Her eyes shut almost instantly. Something about him made her feel tingly inside. She knew, though, this would let her mother down intensely, so she forcefully pulled away from him and pushed him back. Hey, I said I love you, he said as she levitated in the air and kicked him in the chest. He flew backwards and hit a headstone. It slightly broke off as he stood. You don't know me, she shouted as she ran towards the door. I will soon, he said, watching Jenny run away from him and out the door. He seen a cloud of pink and smiled. She will soon understand, he laughed loudly as you see him disappear and the mausoleum became still. End of chapter 1. That is the ending of that chapter, so I hope you had a good time. Please leave me comments, ratings. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks. Any ideas? Send them to me. You guys know the short summary, and I'll tell you guys once again in case you guys did not hear it before. Jenny, the eldest of Phoebe's girls, goes out to the cemetery. She remembers when her father, Coop, warned her to never go near the mausoleum. Now that Jenny was grown and 21, she was sure he wouldn't mind. One night she sneaks out of the house, but was to her surprise she would find an old friend. The man seems to know more about her mother than Jenny even did. She finally runs away from him after he says he loves her. She's totally freaked, but she never tells anyone until 2 days later when the same man appears and is punched by Coop, her father. Jenny is frightened and runs away. Just when she needs someone most, the same man appears again. He holds her and tells her he loves her. She falls for him. Can you guess who this old friend is? Hint. He's half demon. This is a series for the Charm Children. Disclaimer, I do not own any of the Charm characters. The only Charm characters or WB characters I do own are the ones I have created. Jenny, Katie, Lucy, Damien, Derek, John, Michael, Joe, Kevin, Chrissy, and Casey. That's the only ones I do own. Melinda is actually made up by me, but the name was given off of Charm, so necessarily that character is owned to Charmed. Leo, Coop, Henry, Cole, Melinda, Wyatt, and Chris, and Henry Jr. are not owned by me. Those were explained on the show. So, thank you, and tune in for more episodes. Thank you. Bye.